You're listening to the Wrestling Philosophy Show, where we talk wrestling perspectives and beliefs. Check us out on social media, including video shows on YouTube and audio on podcast platforms. In this show, we connect with NCAA official Matt Sorochinsky. He gives us a very unique perspective on the officials process. He has a background in wrestling at Ithaca College. He also was a coach at the D1, D2, and D3 levels. I'm glad I was finally able to get an official on here. I hope to bring you some more in their perspectives on the sport, because they really have a unique perspective and have a story to share. Hey, what's going on, Matt? How you doing?
Hey, Jared. How are you doing?
Good, man. Thanks for taking the time tonight. Sorry we couldn't connect last week, but there was some wrestling on TV, so I think we both wanted to watch that first, right?
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, so had a few different people say I should have you on, and I'm glad we connected and you accepted. You've had a whole range of experience in wrestling, from coaching to officials. If you could give us a little recap of your background in the sport.
Yeah, so I started like a lot of people. I started in a family. My dad was a wrestler. He was actually a two-time New York State champion back in the mid 60s, and then went out to BYU, was an All-American out at Brigham Young, at the end of the late 60s, early 70s. And they had some pretty good teams back then, and was actually teammates with Cal Sanderson's dad, Steve Sanderson.
Oh, wow.
Which was kind of a small world. And then another small world is that out at BYU, because I've got to meet some of these guys, over the years. He was also college teammates with a guy named Daryl Henry, who did like 30 consecutive Division I national championships as an official.
Wow.
Hall of Fame official, absolute legend. So wrestling was in the family. I got an older brother that was in wrestling. I was 4 years old and playing under the bleachers, and it was that time, like I think a lot of others do. So I decided to lace up the shoes, put on a singlet or shorts or whatever it was back then, and started wrestling, and never really stopped until even after into coaching. So wrestled and grew up in upstate New York, Johnson City. High school, was a part of some pretty successful teams, two New York State dual meet championship teams at the late 80s. Was fortunate to win the New York State championships in 1991, which in fact, I mentioned my dad was a state champ. So we became the first father-son state champion combination in the history of New York.
Oh,
so
cool.
There's been a couple
That's
after.
sweet.
Yeah. You'd think it would happen more often, but and so I got started there, and that took me into college. Ended up going to Ithaca College in upstate New York, right across the hill from Cornell, and had a pretty successful career there. It's an All-American twice, part of a national championship team. In fact, Ithaca, a little trivia, Ithaca was the last team other than Wartburg or Augsburg to win the Division III national championships. And it happened to be back in 1994. So Augsburg and Wartburg have won every year since then, which is incredible. And then that's where I really started officiating. My sophomore year in college, I wanted to make a little bit of extra money, and Pee Wee tournaments were available. And, some of the old time officials said, hey, why don't you come to a meeting, get started? So they got me started in it, and, had some success, made some extra money. And, I was, the whole plan for me from when I got into college was to graduate, to teach, to coach, and, particularly be a wrestling coach. And, the officiating kind of just came out of the blue. It was nothing that I really planned on doing. It just happened, it was a way to make a little extra money. And, and then graduated from college, coached at the high school level, then took an assistant position in Division III at SUNY Oneonta State University of New York. And then took a year, left there, came to my alma mater, Johnson City, coached a year, high school, and then accepted a full-time position at Binghamton University. Okay. So at that time, they were Division II. transitioning into Division I. So I was an assistant coach there, full-time assistant during that process from 98 to 2002. And, so lots of different experiences. Got to move in, we were 2 years in Division I, but we weren't eligible. And then my last year there was our first year eligible for the championships.
Cool.
Yeah. And then I got out of teaching and coaching. I took a job as a pharmaceutical rep in 2002. It was kind of out of the blue. Buddy from college gave me a call, said, "Hey, got a position, think you might be interested in, you might fit very well." And I said, "Well, I don't have any sales experience." And he said, "What do you mean you don't have any sales experience? You've just been selling 4-year, 5-year commitments to student athletes and their families." He said, that's a capital sell. And, and he was right, and so what I did is I kind of took, some of the things that I was doing in the recruiting and, tailored that to a resume and interviewed and really sold that experience, and ended up getting the job. And, almost 20 years later now, I'm still doing the same thing. So it's been a good ride.
Nice.
Yeah. But, getting into the sales side of it, really opened up the opportunity for me as an official. Obviously I wanted to stay involved in the sport. And this was a great way for me to give back and stay involved. Tough job. It is very tough. But it's an important job. And, having come through the ranks, wrestled and knowing the passion, the effort that we put in, the sacrifices that we make, it's important that I can do my best to give those guys, a fair shake, exactly what I wanted when I came through. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's probably a lot like coaching, different angles, but probably a lot of gratifying aspects of it, right? It's hard work. You got to take the good with the bad, but at the end of the day, you're giving back and doing it for the sport and making the sport better. So you're 20 years in on officiating about, or how many?
Yeah. So, I officiated high school as well when I was coaching a little bit, not, when I could do it, but not really full time. Not until 2002 did I really, start to do it full time.
So looking back, it's like any profession or anything you kind of invest your time in. What would you say, to that first couple of years, to yourself, those first couple of years, looking back, had to be tough, right? Kind of learning the ropes and, looking back, was there something you'd say to yourself or something, you'd say to new officials out there, or any words of wisdom?
Yeah, I think, and I learned it probably about halfway through. It probably took me about 10 years to really understand this. So is get connected, with people that have been there. And I think the advice I give most to young officials is, ask for help, because the veteran officials want to help the younger officials along and get better. But I think more importantly is not just asking for help, but accepting it when it's offered, because I think there's a lot of times where I did ask for help. People would give me advice and I'd just say, yeah, okay, whatever. I got it. And, so I think that's probably the number one thing is, and that's something that I try to communicate often now, as I work with younger guys, expand your network. You can't, it's a whole lot easier, doing it together than it is doing it alone. And I did it alone. I thought I controlled my destiny, and it was hard, so definitely that would be one thing.
Anything you take from the sales world that kind of translates into officiating?
Yeah, I think everything. There's a lot of psychological things, and I think being a teacher has helped me in the sales and in the coaching. It's not taking one approach across the board. It's trying to be open-minded, and realizing that people are at at different places, and there's not one shoe fits all.
Right.
So, trying to take a different approach, and that's helped me in sales. But the grind, just being consistent, and that's whether it's wrestling, whether it's sales, whether it's coaching. I think the one thing that has led to success over and over and over is just being consistent and doing the little things,
and obviously
time.
that's led to you, for those that don't know, you're an NCAA official. This year would have been your 10th in a row, right?
Yeah, 11th.
11th, okay.
Yeah.
And then Big Ten, you do, conferences. So, I mean, that's, if you're doing folk style, it's the highest honor right there. And then you've been involved in the rules committee, right, since 2016?
Yeah.
Okay. Walk us through that a little bit, what that consists of, responsibilities, what the conversations are behind the scenes, the why, of some of these rule changes.
Yeah. So, the rules committee is made up of coaches from every division. There's several Division 1, 2, and 3 coaches. There's some administrators that are on the committee. Basically, they're the voice for the coaches, with regards to the rules. Wrestling is actually a unique sport in that they invite an official representative into the process. So, of all the sports at the NCAA, I think there's only 2 or 3 sports that allow officials, believe it or not, to be involved in the rules process, which was kind of mind blowing to me. You would think officials would be more in the process, but no, it's the coaches that it's their sport. Really officials we serve, we call the rules that they put in place. But I will tell you this, in my experience, I'm not a voting member on the rules committee. I'm more there, to consult the committee. And, it has been my experience that Tim Shields, who's the national coordinator of officials for the NCAA, is on the committee as well. And, they very much value our input. And while we don't have a vote, I would say that there's, they take our input very seriously. But the process, it's really interesting to understand the process and to be involved in it and to see the evolution, see some of the changes that have been made over the last several rule cycles. I mean, there's been some major changes. And this last rule cycle, we didn't make a whole lot of changes just because the previous 2, I think there was 20 some or 30 different rule changes, which was a lot, and it was a lot for officials, to be consistent. And so they kind of said, hey, let's take what we've got. Let's refine it. Let's let these officials, get better, more confident with the rules that we have before we start taking some more swings. So, yeah,
that's definitely, you've had past guests on. That's one of the things we've talked about is, it can't be easy for officials either. If you're changing the rules every so often, not, officials across the board, coaches, new coaches, fans. And, but I think we're in a better spot now at the NCAA level than we've ever been at the rule. I feel as a fan, and as a past competitor, but anything you guys are kind of discussing maybe, or is it kind of just obviously as is now, but anything, you could see changing in the future possibly?
There's so how the process works each year, survey goes out to fans, to coaches, to administrators, pretty much everybody. And they're allowed to send back and give feedback. And then the committee actually compiles all of that data, all of those questions, and puts
Does it go out to ESPN too? I thought I was talking to someone, they said,
I think so.
Okay.
I'm not sure all the outlets, but it goes out to several. I mean, there's a lot of people that are involved, at least in the initial, coming up with ideas and suggestions for upcoming rule changes. And then the committee goes through and kind of whittles that down, puts them into groups. And, I would say on average, we look at probably during a rule change cycle, 120 different rules, maybe.
Okay, cool. Nice.
So they come in, but then, they'll narrow it down and then they'll send it out to the membership, so there's a survey that will go out to Division 1 coaches, 2 and 3 coaches, and then conference coordinators, and I think ADs and administrators. Cool. So all the rules, so then we get the surveys back, right? So we get the rule changes. So what the rules committee does is one of the big tools that they look at is, well, how did the coaches vote, So let's say, I'll give you an example. Let's say the push out rule, that's something that we hear about a lot on especially on social media.
Right.
Coaches voted against it like 90%. It was over 90. They were 90%. It's one of the rules that they were the most against. So the committee will take, that they obviously weigh that
favorably.
Yeah, very much. That is probably a leading factor, that goes into a lot of, those rule changes. So it's not just, 10 guys on a rule committee that are making the rules. No, it's the whole,
a lot of data points.
Yeah. A lot of coaches have input, and they those weigh very heavily on, the direction that they go with the rules.
Oh, cool. Okay. See, I didn't know that. That's pretty cool. So, you've been officiating for a while. Do you have like a favorite experience as an official, or a favorite duel or tournament, one that sticks out?
No, I mean, it's so many. I think in high school, starting out the first state tournament, getting that call. I think as an official, that's kind of was like my first goal. I mean, I don't think when I started out that I had a goal of being an NCAA championship official. I think it was, more short term, and for me, the first best thing was, doing the high school states. And so I think that probably was. And then, after that, just getting more and more responsibility at the college level. Obviously I've had, been fortunate to officiate in pretty much all the conferences, most of the conference championships, believe it or not. Done the ACCs, the Big Tens, the EIWAs, the Pac-12s, Pac-10s.
Oh, wow.
Cool. So it's been cool.
It's probably a lot like wrestling, right? You kind of get started and you have a goal of, okay, I'm going to be here. And then you kind of have a little taste of success, or, you pass that hurdle, and it's like, wow, I guess I can hit that next level probably, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's pretty much how it starts. And it's, you just keep pushing and keep progressing, keep one foot in front of the other, and keep growing and keep learning. And for me now today, one of the big things that helps me continue to progress is helping, the younger officials. That's such an important part of what I do today. And it helps. And I think, I just think I've grown tremendously the last 3 or 4 years, as a result of that, being able to help others.
Cool. So as a season approaches, as a top level official, is there anything you do, physically to train? You're pretty active on the mat. Anything you do physically, or, review film, because you kind of get thrust into, tournaments or whatever it may be in the year. Is there a way to kind of prep for your season just as a coach or an athlete would?
Yeah, I think so. And the way that I've prepared has evolved, over my career. I think that, you going back, what would I tell a younger me? Hey, prepare. Better prepare, because there was for many years that I just, picked up the whistle, didn't really prepare. I was young, thought I was really tough, and just would just grind through it. Right. And, you get a little bit older, you get a little bit wiser. And, today it's all about preparation. There's really, for officials, I think the top officials, there's no off season. There's no, hanging up the whistle in March and picking it back up in November. Just, you can't do that. It's you won't progress that way. Especially as you get older, I'm getting older. It's so important for me, to prepare. I mean, I work out every day if I can. I mean, that's the goal.
What's your go-to for workouts? What do you pick it up as it gets closer?
I alternate. So I don't generally take a day off. I do active recovery,
Nice.
But I generally run every other day. And then on my active recovery, either bike or elliptical.
Okay, cool.
For cardio, so and then I left in between.
Nice. Yeah. Those are some long days,
Yeah.
As a coach, I coach, and at the end of the day, I'm like, man, I'm whooped. I didn't even do anything. I can't imagine being official, constantly being at the right angle.
Yeah.
Do you review film of yourself or other officials, or, are you, when you watch, if you're not officiating, you're at home watching TV, when you're watching a match, you kind of watch the official, or, do you use video much?
Yeah, so I do. And, we were talking before, how I have the best seat in the house, but I'll tell you what, I'm not, when I'm out there officiating, I'm not watching wrestling. I'm officiating, I'm looking at positions, I'm looking at control, I'm looking at criteria. I'm looking at safety, my number one responsibility. And I tell them, at any level, I think this is one of the most misunderstood areas is the safety aspect in college. Like, I think a lot of people think we let things go a lot. I don't. I mean, I referee college the same way I referee, peewees. I do. I mean, safety is absolutely number one. And I tell the guys in the pre-match that that's my number one priority. My primary purpose, keep you safe and get the call right. It's not being right, it's getting it right. And, so yeah,
that's the beauty of, that's the beauty of wrestling. Coach told me that at a young age, when they were trying to recruit new wrestlers, now I played football. I love football, but if someone does something, it may be too late and that person's injured in wrestling. Obviously it can happen, but with the official right there, they can stop the match if things are kind of looking kind of screwy and before an injury happens. And you don't have that in many sports, but go on. I didn't mean to cut you off, but your obligation is first safety, but
yeah. And so that's a big part of it. I got lost. What was the question?
Just about reviewing video or anything like that.
Oh yeah.
Stay sharp.
So yeah, and that's a big part of it. How can I better see positions to protect athletes? Protect the wrestlers in situations, because one thing that I can remember, a big advice, Pat McCormick, who was the former national coordinator of officials, told me. I used to, especially on line calls, I'd get on the edge and I'd get my feet planted. I'd pick one side and I'd let my assistant get the other side, right? The second official. And he said, you got to keep moving, because when you're set in stone, you got one angle. It's kind of like a video camera at the table, it's one angle, but if you keep moving, you're going to get multiple angles as you see, a situation develops. So that's something that I try to work on and improve. And video helps me to see when I start to get stuck in the mud a little bit, where, situations where I can move more, but video is very important. Man, what an era. I mean, I grew up, we had VCR tapes,
Right.
I can remember some of these things coming out. But now it's just a jackpot of footage, and just no shortage of opportunities to develop with the video that's out there. I have a group now of 7 guys, 4 championship officials and 3 new guys. And we just, every day it's videos. And I mean, there's times I don't check my phone. I get on, there's 200 messages, and it's like, oh my goodness. And, so yeah, I mean, it's my phone. I have to delete, I have to move over to Google Photos a lot, just clips. And
that's good though, right?
Yeah.
It's changed, in the 20 years you're officiating. Right now we have the flow, track wrestling of the world. Now it's, you're sharpening your skills, right?
Yep, definitely.
That's cool. That's pretty cool. It's ever changing, and for the positive. So you mentioned you have those 3 guys. So are those kind of guys you're taking under your wing to kind of groom to be the next level?
We all are, and it's, I think like we were talking before, Kevin Linich is in that group.
Nice.
He's championship official. He did, Pittsburgh was his first D1 championship, and Patrick Frankfurt, Pittsburgh was his first Division I. And then Eric McGill, he's out in the Chicago area now, wrestled at Cornell. He did his the Division III championships, and I think the Division I's might be in his future.
Nice.
And then we've got 3 newer guys, and
cool.
One from Philadelphia area, all over the country. One from Indiana, and then another from Ohio. So
cool. Yeah, Kevin and I were teammates at Kent. He's was talking to my brother about him the other day, and he's passionate about what he does and puts his heart and soul into it. Have you done Ironman with him, or obviously you've done NCAAs?
We
right,
did,
him, but...
So okay. I did. They asked me to do Ironman a couple of years ago, and Kevin and I did the final with Nate Carr's son there, and Jared Opfer. So it went into Jared, triple overtime. It was a lot of fun. What a great tournament. Unbelievable. Like I hadn't done high school in probably 4 years. And I was like hesitant to do that because there's, the high school and college and Kevin was, when you go do the Ironman, you have a second official the other official you work every single match with. So every single match at Ironman, I worked with Kevin. And Kevin was full-time at the time, or very near full-time high school. So he knew the high school rules. And I said, you know, listen, I get in trouble. You know, I'm counting 4 back points. It's high school. They didn't have that rule.
Right.
You know, and I'm like, no.
Well, it's natural.
Or they're out of bounds. You know, we had the rule that changed where you could get back points out of bounds. So kids, I remember some stud, I'm counting back points out of bounds, and I'm like, no, 2, you got to pull them in. So the kid pulls them in, and I start counting again. And,
nice. Yeah, because those mats there are smaller. It probably made it tough on top of it compared to your college, traditional college. Yeah, we're pretty blessed with that tournament here in Ohio. That's, you know,
it's amazing.
Yeah, Kevin had that the match with the shoe, you know, whatever you want to call it. Were you there when that happened?
I was sitting right next to Zeb and next to Willie. I was right at the table. So if you ever see footage, and oh my goodness,
that was pretty crazy. And I remember texting Kevin after that, just commending him on how well he handled that. You know, that's one thing. If it happens, and you know, he came back to center, here's what's going on. You know, I don't think Zeb and Willie knew what was, you know, what the scenario, and Kevin knew, and here's what it is, and he didn't, you know, break stride at all. And that just shows something, you know, how dedicated and focused he is. But so you were right there with him. Oh, that's cool.
I was sitting. I mean, I couldn't have had a better seat. And the best part is hearing Zeb and Willie go crazy, you know. And I'm, you know, that was awesome. That was just complete mayhem. And I think the best part of it is that I wasn't out on the mat, you know.
It wasn't on your shoulders, right? Yeah.
Just completely relaxing. And
what was it, Izzy and Clay Guida or something? There's some big dudes ready to throw down. So.
Yeah.
No, that's cool.
That was awesome.
Pretty exciting. It's have you ever seen anything crazy like that? Do you have any other crazy stories, like just kind of off the wall stuff that's happened?
I can tell you a crazy story with me. I don't even know what year it was. It was early though. So it was when Jack Space was coaching at Oklahoma. Okay. So, and I know Jack very, very well. I've gone back. He was the head coach at Cornell when I was at Ithaca, and we wrestled a lot together, the 2 programs. And so I was officiating, and it was up in Brockport. Oklahoma used to do this Oklahoma Brockport Gold tournament, where they kind of co-sponsored this tournament.
Yeah, and we used to send guys up from Kent. I never wrestled it, but when I was at Kent, we sent guys up there.
Yep. And so I'm doing a final. Do you remember the Fleming from Clarion? He used to have like a choke.
Yeah.
So he's wrestling in the finals against an Oklahoma kid, and I've got the final, and you know, I'm very aware of, you know, that James Fleming does this move, and it's you know, a lot of times it's legal. He like kind of locks on the jaw, and it's not.
I had to wrestle Nick Simmons a couple of times back in the day. Similar stuff, right?
So, you know, but there was times where, you know, I think it probably did go illegal, but, you know, we're aware of it. We're watching it, and I'm sitting there, I'm on it. I mean, I had a clear view of the situation. So Jack comes running out on the mat, stops the match. And I'm like, oh God, you know, and I'm, you know, it's the finals, and I'm thinking what am I going to do here? You know? Yeah. And, I remember saying to Jeremy, you got one job, it's keep your dad in the corner. And he's laughing, and not at the time, but after. And so I said to him, I said, I don't know exactly. I've never had this happen. I've never had a coach run out onto the mat and stop action. And that was true. So I really didn't, you know, I didn't want to overreact. Mm-hmm. So, you know, because I was thinking, man, I probably should throw him out. Mm-hmm. And, you know, so we had a short conversation.
It's their tournament too, right? It's their tournament on top of it.
And I'm a new official. Yeah. So we came to an agreement. We took a team point away, and he agreed not to come back out on the mat. So we finished the match. And I think all parties were happy in that situation. But yeah, cool. that was one of the more bizarre, just because it never happened, you know.
And you're new, like you said. So.
And I'm new. Yeah.
Any calls you kind of like look back and like, oh, I, you know, should have handled a different way that stick out that made you a better official?
Yeah, I mean, so many situations, you know, and I'll tell you what's helped me a lot as an official is video review, you know, and just being a whole lot more open-minded. to the fact that I could be wrong, you know, even though I see situations, because what I found through video review is I'm looking at a situation, you're looking at a situation, I can see something completely different, and be wrong and think I'm right. You know,
you only have one angle of the 360
right.
degrees.
Yeah.
Right?
So, and I've had it happen so many times. I remember 2013 national championship in Des Moines. It's the first year we had video review, and I remember one match I had, Boise State. It was heavyweight. I'm not sure who they were wrestling, but I ended up changing 2 calls after video review. And the first call that I changed, we had a conversation prior. I told the coach, I said, listen, man, I'm at the house, the farm, the kids, everything. This call ain't getting changed. That was 2, right? He's like, can I take the challenge back? And I'm like, nope, you already raised. I think at the time they had the flags.
Okay.
So I went and looked at it, and my assistant even was like, man, that's not, you know, he was going against me, and I didn't, you know, I'm like, no, we'll go look at it. Right. You know, your 50%'s not, your 51%'s not better than my 49. Right. Mm-hmm. So we went and looked at it. It wasn't even close. I mean, it was not even like, I was completely wrong. And, you know, and it's like,
you're human,
you get that moment, but it just, you know, for me, it changed everything, you know. My whole approach, you know, when I go to the table now in every situation, you know, I listen to understand, you know, I just assume I'm wrong. I really do. Not to the point that I'm, you know, just completely unconfident, but, you know, I'm definitely open to the fact I want to hear, you know, what you saw. And, you know, I want to see if I did miss something. Hey, you know, the big thing that I talk about now that I've learned, I think from video review, it's not being right, it's getting it right. You know, we've got so many tools now at the college level to get calls right, you know, with second officials, with video review. I just so many different things that really, you know, when it's all working and we're using it, man, we should get most of the calls right. We really should.
Nice. Do you have kind of what you said you did the big Iowa Penn State this year? That'd be pretty cool, right? So I know I asked earlier, do you have any favorites, but you know, any kind of duels, maybe not a favorite, but kind of the excitement and walking out. You touched on the confidence thing. Do you have kind of like, okay, am I ready for this? Or do you have a self-talk when you go into these big matches? Like, you know, I'm ready for this. I'm prepared for it. You know, it's kind of like we said, it's a lot like coaching, a lot like competing. Is there a self-talk you kind of have that you go through?
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. I haven't really talked about this. I was at a conference, I think 2 years ago. The Intercollegiate Wrestling Officials Association did like a national conference, and I was on a I don't know, a board of like 5 officials, and we were talking, and that was one of the questions that they asked all 5 of us. You know, kind of how do we prepare? How do you, you know, what mental preparation do you go for these big matches? And you know, one of the things that all 5 championship officials said was prayer. And I'm thinking, you know, and we do, and I know for me, and it's you know, it just gets me centered. It gets me humbled. You know, I ask God for help, and that's the best way for me to start. Cause I think, you know, it's when I think I can do it by myself. You know what I mean? It's when I think that I don't need any help. You know, I got all this help. You know, I've got a second official. I've got video review. I've got coaches. You know, coaches, this is something I talk about all the time. You know, we're not adversarial. I mean, my primary purpose, protect your kid and get the call right. I mean, I think you got to agree with that, right? I think most coaches would agree with that. So help me help you, you know, and, you know, when you come to the table or there's a call or there's a situation, you know, bring a solution, you know, bring a point of view. You know, saying that's the worst call I've ever seen in the history of wrestling. First of all, it's not true. But it doesn't help, you know, it doesn't help me. And because I really, truly do. And I think most officials just want to get it right, you know, and it's you know, and I think the big mistake, you know, going back, you asked that question, what I'd go back and tell myself in those first 10 years is, you know, don't, you know, it's not about being right, man. It's about getting it right. You know, and the biggest mistake I think we make as officials is, you know, not using all the tools and the resources that we have to get it right. It's not making a mistake, you know, and I learned this, you know, it took a long time to learn this, but people, you know, coaches, I just think people in general in every walk of life are a lot more likely to remember how you dealt with a problem than how you created it in the first place. And
Right.
so, understanding that, I'm going to make a mistake. I tell them in my pre-match, here's
Mm-hmm.
one thing that I'm 100% sure that's going to happen. I'm going to make a mistake. But you know what? I'm 100% sure I'm going to do my best to get it right and to use every tool that I have. I'm going to slow down. I'm going to use the second official. We're going to use video review. And if we got to change this call 14 times, we're going to do whatever we got to do to get it right. That's my commitment.
Mm-hmm.
And when I'm able to do that, things usually turn out pretty good.
Nice. That's pretty cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
So we're living in a once in a lifetime, whatever we want to call this, what we're living right now, and being a official, a leader, in the official world. What are you kind of saying to these younger officials right now? And I guess, what's the conversations right now with officials, as the season approaches or whatever we're going to call it, so they're staying ready, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of uncertainty right now. And there's, you can look at it half full or it's half empty. Right. And I think the message from the top has been really consistent. Let's all be ready, because this thing, right now it looks as though a January 1st is going to be the what everybody's shooting for. Could it be sooner? Yeah, I think so. I mean, there's NAIA that I think are wrestling right now, and I think some JUCO, some other events that are going on. So, but I know for me personally, it's the date that I'm looking at is January 1st, as far as the start date, to be ready. I'm ready to go right now. But, and that, I think that's the message to the younger guys is, just be ready. That's just, we don't know what's going to happen, and we can speculate. We can, there's a lot of things that are out of our control. It's really just control what you can control. And, that's what we do today.
Any discussion, a lot of the opens, canceled. So it's going to be, a dual landscape, right? For the most part.
Yeah.
And that obviously kind of trickles down to those beginners getting some mat time. Any conversations as far as keeping them involved, or, is this going to have a trickle down effect of the NCAA officials pool or a high school pool, or, I guess anything you think, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to have a shortened season, and without the open tournaments, without those are big opportunities, especially for younger officials and older veteran officials to kind of kick the rust off. So I know they're planning right now to have 2 officials in most matches, just to make sure, because obviously there's a lot of uncontrollables. There's going to be testing for officials. There's going to be a bunch of protocols. So if an official, should have a temperature or not feel good the day of a match, we've got to have an alternative or a backup. So right now, I think that's what they're really working hard on. And I think that's going to, even in a shortened season, I think that's going to give a lot more people opportunities, especially younger guys, maybe to work more with some veteran officials.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, to answer your question, it's that's the discussion. That's a discussion going on. The numbers I know so far, as far as registered officials at the NCAA level is very good.
Okay.
So far, I mean, right now it looks like we're in good shape, but that's today. I don't know,
Right. It all changes so quick.
Yeah.
So, I don't, I have this question a lot, and I don't want to make it a set in stone, question for shows.
Yeah.
But any rule changes just personally, obviously, or any rule changes you would like to see, or kind of you think would make things more interesting or exciting in the sport?
Yeah. I've been listening to some of your previous podcasts, and I think one favorite one that's come up, I know Coach Beecher was talking about it, and it gets talked about every year, at least that I've been on, is the 3-point takedown.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, so my alternative to the 3-point takedown, because I know what the purpose, I think the whole purpose of the 3-point takedown is to expand the differential with an escape, right? Because you get 3 takedowns and 3 escapes, and then you take bottom the second period, get out, it's 6-4. You know, you've just taken the guy down 3 times, which is crazy. Like I get in these matches, it's one-sided, but it's close. I'm sitting here going, whoa, what's going on here? So, you know, the NCAA, they actually did, they piloted, you know, they used to pilot rules with the All-Star match. And I remember it was Ian Miller wrestled James Green. And it was that year, and because I thought it was a great rule, and I thought they applied it really well. So, you know, if you had scored a takedown, you could cut the guy without giving a point. So my rule change would be only award escapes for escapes that are earned. Right. So if I take you down, and I say, you know, we go out of bounds on a restart, and I say neutral, then you shouldn't get a point. You know, I think that's pretty logical in the transgression of, you know, how it progresses, I guess, right? You know, doing 3 off the rip might be pretty drastic. And, you know, I think having that at least would even it up a little bit, you know, with that 4-point takedown, you know, that let's go neutral, right? And then you're having that 2-point advantage, you know, because right now you get 1 turn, that's 4 points. And then you got to take the, you know, just that's for equivalency, 4 takedowns. That's quite a bit of work. If you know, have a good tilt, you know, you could really do some damage. But yeah, there's something there. But I don't know. I think we're on the right path with whatever we have. You know, the whole, you know, the drop down and the you know, the danger. You know, I definitely think it makes it exciting. I really, you know, I touched on the push out. You know, it's not one that's really favored by most of the college coaches, and I'll tell you, you know, I think what a lot of people don't realize is that going to a push out in folk style would change wrestling dramatically.
Less action on the edge, really, right?
Yeah, well, and it'd make the mat smaller. I think the rules that have been in place in the last, you know, 5-6 years have really expanded the action on the edge. You know, guys continue to wrestle. You don't see, you know, and I saw that, you know, at the U.S. Open, you saw with Hidley and Valencia, you know, he takes them flying, continuation of action into the stands. And, you know, I think the premise behind the rule is it's a stay on the mat rule. So there's just, you know, something about rewarding somebody for not staying on the mat. And I'll tell you the biggest difference, you go to high school, you know, and I know high school is kind of changing up their rules a little bit, at least with the out of bounds stalling, you know, on the restarts to mimic college, but it's painful to see these restarts after restarts. And I get the mats are small, but
it prolongs the match, you know?
Yeah. So, I think the you know, the stay on the mat rules, you know, have really helped to, you know, to keep wrestling moving.
Yeah, that push out, I think it have an unintended consequence.
Yeah, I understand the thought
the
process,
logic. But I think in the long term, you mentioned freestyle. Do you officiate any freestyle or just kind of stick to folk style?
No, I you know, my pastime is trying to figure out the freestyle rules. You know, I'm getting the grounding and. You know, I have no idea what the criteria is. So if the announcers don't have it right, I don't have it right.
No, it's all good, man.
But wrestling's wrestling, man, you know?
Yeah.
It's good.
Any of the recent rules kind of make it you like and kind of make it easier, you know, the drop down or the danger or anything, you're kind of glad they put that in from a personal, I guess, officiating stance?
Yeah, I mean, I think most of them. I will tell you this, though. I didn't agree with some of them initially. I thought we were going to get crucified, you know, and I thought the danger rule ended up coming in being good. We were really uncertain on that, you know, until we actually blew the whistle, because we created a lot of situations that we thought might happen that never happened.
Okay.
But, you know, and I think to understand that, you know, and more people understanding sort of the rationale behind the neutral danger takedown. So I don't think that the neutral danger takedown wasn't put in place to expand non-controlled scoring, you know, because essentially that's what it was. What it was put into place is to get guys to wrestle through these situations, you know. So I don't think, you know, and like I tell them, you know, if it's even close, you're not getting the points. Because I mean, if the guy rolls through the situation, that was the whole purpose of the rule, you know. And then, you know, you'll see people get quick on it. You know, it's danger, and then it's a 3 count. So with reaction time, it's minimum 4+ seconds to be, you know, in that criteria before a takedown's, you know, supposed to be awarded. but that's been a good one.
Yeah, that I agree. And, I've talked with some past guests too. It's like, I'm glad, with my busy coaching and what I do in the sport in the winter, it's hard to catch all these, college matches. And like you said, going back to high school, I'm in this, oh yeah, that's, this, because I'm used to, youth, junior high and high school, and I watch NCAA sometimes, like, oh yeah, that's, they're scoring here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Different things. But any officials you think I should have on?
Yeah, I think a great one to have on right now would be Mike Haggerty. He just retired. He's now the coordinator of officials for the Big Ten. But man, he's just a legend coach, a legend official. Coached at Blue Springs, Missouri. He's involved on a lot of levels out at the Olympic Training Center. Just an incredible human being. And he's got an incredible approach to officiating, to life. He's just somebody that's been a big part of my journey, and a great example, I think, for a lot of officials.
Cool.
But or if you wanted to get Tim Shields on, I could shoot you the coordinator of officials if you wanted to just go right to the top.
Coach Fischler gave me his contact. He's like, yeah, get a hold of him. And I reached out to you first. A few others said I need to get you on. So I'll reach out to Tim and see. I had a friend, he officiates in here. He's like, oh, gee, Shields. He's like, he's the big dog. I'm like, yeah, well, we'll see. But,
he is the big dog. But I was going to tell you the other one, Jeff Cook. He's another one. He's been a big help to me. I got a great. Yeah, so he retired a couple of years ago. He did if you remember the match between Iowa and Oklahoma State on the gridiron.
Oh yeah,
Iowa Kinnick. So he was the one that officiated, was the lead official for that.
Cool.
He's done, I don't know, he's probably done 9 or 10 Division I championships. But I got a favorite Jeff Cook story.
Okay.
It wasn't the Big Tens. I think it was the Midlands, and so he just got done doing a Wisconsin match. It was back when Barry was the head coach, Barry Davis. And so I'm standing there talking. Jeff just got done with this match. So Barry comes over and is just chewing him. And, it's just chewing up and down, blah, blah, blah. I don't even know what he's saying. And Cook is like, doesn't even change facial expressions. Doesn't grimace, doesn't smile, just anything. He just says, Coach, that was not very nice. And Coach Davis had no idea what to say. He kind of just looked at him and then just took off. So
what do you say to that? Right?
I don't know. What do you say? Like I was like, but yeah,
that's funny. That's awesome. You have any stories with kind of iconic coaches that kind of caught you off guard, or any interactions?
Oh man, they I'll tell you, I love it. It's so awesome to see the passion, and I'll tell you what, it took me a long time to figure it out, that these guys, it's not personal. A lot of things they scream and yell, it's they don't even remember.
Right.
I've had so many conversations.
Moment, right?
It's the heat of the moment, and I was there. It's not. And I remember with Pat Popolizio, it's funny. It was Ohio State and NC State, and not too long ago. It was when they wrestled at Ohio State, and I remember Pat challenged something. And actually Kevin was the second official, and we both saw this. It was takedown out of bounds. Clearly they were out or in. I don't even know what the call was, but we both saw it. It was clear as day. And he throws the brick out, and so we're pretty confident this call is gonna, not gonna change.
Right.
Because usually, we'll review it if he's like, Kevin's like, I'm on the fence, then we're gonna go look at it.
Right.
But we were both pretty solid that this was, the call was correct. And so he throws the brick out, and he's like smiling. He's like, you guys need to hurry up so I can get my brick back. And I'm thinking, oh, he's not going to like this. Yeah. So it's one of those things that, after further review, the call on the mat's confirmed, and then you just kind of walk back to the center. You don't even look over in that direction. So I know it wasn't happening.
Nice.
But
I That's cool. You have any, do you do any matches in cool vet, like you said, the gridiron one? Have you done any kind of, like, it's different
Yeah,
or
like
anything?
I'll tell you, like I think the toughest for me, probably rec hall. Rec hall is tough. You know, Carver's tough. You know, the new venue at Ohio State, man,
It's nice.
It is nice, very nice. And it's loud. You know, I think they're trying to, you know, kind of build that.
Everyone's right on top of it, right?
And it's loud. It's loud, and it's very similar to rec hall. So I think they've got, you know, there was purpose in that. You know, because I think there is, you know, I just find it easier in the bigger venues. You know, like I've done Penn State when they do it at the Bryce Jordan Center, you know, and it's just the more intimate, at least for me as an official, it's harder. You know, they're right on you. It's loud. It's hot.
Right. You feel it. I mean, you kind of feel it. Right?
Yeah. It's like they're, you know, at rec hall, they can, you know, if you got your wallet in your back pocket, I think somebody could snatch it. So, and then they're real good at getting quiet, you know, and you know, when everybody's crying, that one person will yell something, you know, ref, you're stalling, or you know, and then everybody starts laughing, and I hear it, you know. So it's there's a lot of those moments.
Any fans yell something out that kind of make you laugh? Obviously you don't show it, but is there anything because I remember being down at OU. Kent OU duels were crazy, and the OU fans were hilarious. I mean, it was just, they were good.
They are. So Old Dominion and Ohio U, I used to get that match a lot.
Oh, cool.
That was wild. And you're right, OU's got some awesome fans. They actually changed the rule because for those guys, like they said we can't do this. And I used to do this all the time. I'd go in and do my pre-match, and I'd say, hey, coaches, I'm going to go into the other locker room. And, you know, each team's got 5 coaches, right? I tell one of those coaches just to watch the other bench. If they come onto the mat, you know, violate the rules, just throw a challenge brick. I'll review it, and I'll ring them up, right? Yeah. But I'm going to tell the other team the same thing.
Right.
So both guys are going to watch each other. So then nobody comes on the mat. But then we got a ruling that we can't do that. We can't review
the coach.
Yeah, we can't review the coaches off the mat. So
yeah, you have to ask Kevin about because they used to get pretty heated, the OU Kent stuff. Ask Kevin.
Yeah.
I think he was there. That they're red shirts, and you know, fans of the team made shirts one year when OU came to town, and the AD did not like the shirts. Just, let's put it that way. You have to ask him. Yeah. I'm not gonna say what it said, but
no.
It was it was pretty good, but yeah, too bad. You know, speaking of small venues, and you know, too bad that Minnesota didn't happen this year. I think that would have been interesting. I don't know how that would have played out, you know, but it'd been definitely different. I'm kind of bummed they're not giving another try, but I get, you know, the financial side of it.
Yeah. I'm in the same boat. I was really looking forward to seeing, you know, what that experience was going to be like. Because again, I think you know, you had both sides of the coin. You hear people making an argument against and making an argument for. Let's just see, you know, and I'm just grateful that the sport continues to, you know, to push those envelopes and to try new things. And, you know, I know Anthony Holman at the NCAA is one of the best in the business. And I mean, you look at the NCAA tournaments, it's the best show on earth by far.
Yeah. I agree. I say that every year, you know, I say, you know, the Ohio State, you know, I'm biased being in Ohio, but you know, that's the second best tournament there is, you know, or first best high school, you know, tournament. And then you get the NCAA. There's nothing like the NCAA. And it's just that feeling of being there is, you know, I can imagine it, you know, walking out as official too, just, you know, a packed house and the different crowds cheering, you know, and you know, you can't show it, but I'm sure you feel it, but you can't, you know, you're not, you know, you're still, you're, you know, judging the match, but it's pretty cool. So
it's you know, we were just talking about that on a text today. They were asking, you know, how many times, you know, before you get comfortable, and, you know, especially on the big stage, and I'm like, you don't. That's the one thing that I was kind of surprised at, is I'm still not comfortable, you know. It might
be a good thing though, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Get your nerves and get you ready, right?
It is. And I do a lot of meditating and prayer, but then, you know, right before they sit us at the head table on deck, not even together, we're at opposite ends of the table. So it's torture. It is torture. And, But, we were also talking that, once the whistle blows, it's just like wrestling,
Mm-hmm.
When I was a wrestler competitor, that whistle blew and I'm in,
That's
autopilot, and it's going through.
That's pretty cool. Do you have anything else you want to share, ask, tell that, we didn't touch on?
No, man, this has been fun. This is my first Zoom or podcast. So I listened to a lot of them. I really enjoy what you're doing. A lot of people are doing. I mean, just no shortage of great podcasts.
Yeah, they're definitely out there, and
yeah,
I had this bounce around in my head, and I want to have coaches. Everyone knows what it's like to be a new coach, but these new coaches need to hear from some of these experienced ones of the little tips and tricks or what's going through their head. And I would like to have more officials on the same thing, because there's a lot of perspective these officials have that they like you said, you've coached, what it's like to be a coach. So I think obviously that makes you a better official. But if you can share some tidbits and things for officials, okay, I can do this, and because everyone has those tough first few years that it makes it tough. But you share some stories and some background, it makes it a lot easier, and I think more enjoyable. And we're all in this together for the right reasons. So
for sure.
Well, cool. Thanks for your time, Matt.
Yeah,
I appreciate
it.
If you like the show, subscribe on YouTube or your favorite podcast channels. If you didn't, shoot us a DM and let us know who you'd like to hear from.